here we've got a Kilchoman bottling, distilled in 2011 and matured in Oloroso sherry hogshead to be bottled as part of the Founders Cask release. I understand you know a bit about the history of Kilchoman.
Well, I do, because I opened the distillery, and I also opened it when it went into production before it had its official opening. Yeah. It's a family-owned distillery, Anthony and Kathy Wills. Kathy comes from Islay. She married Anthony, and he'd been in the wine trade previously. And then they opened this distillery on the west coast of the island at Kilchoman. It's very much a farm distillery. They rented space on Rockside Farm, and they installed the distillery in old outbuildings. After a while, they bought the entire farm. They grow their own barley. They've got their own maltings, which are used part-time. But it's one of terrific reputation, the Kilchoman, and I haven't ever tasted this one. This will be quite interesting. This is non-chill filtered, natural strength of 54.4% alcohol, and it's been bottled at 10 years old. It's an Oloroso sherry hogshead, so I reckon this is probably European oak with that colour after 10 years. But we'll see.
Yeah, and it's certainly, I remember trying my first Kilchoman about 3 years after they started, and it was very young spirit, and I remember being blown away by the quality of it back then. So, you know, with an extra 7 years in cask, I'm looking forward to seeing what they've managed to achieve.
It'll be interesting. The typical Kilchoman is slightly smoky, and they do Macabé, which is a much more smoky variant. And it'll be interesting to see whether the smokiness comes through this sherry influence.
Shall we get it cracked open and see what it's all about?
There we are.
What a sound, eh? Oh, you can see the colour just pouring it.
Ooh. Wow. Now, it's interesting, the colour comes from the wood. A little bit of colour maybe from the first incumbent. Oloroso sherry is, of course, quite dark. But this is very mineralic. But the colour, look at the gorgeous sort of magenta, if you like. What's the strength of this? 54. Let's see what we can do. The beading test. Now, what this tells you, the fact that the bubbles lie on the surface, tells you, A, that it's over 50% alcohol, and the way it lingers, and the longer it lingers, often tells you about gives you an indication of age.
Yeah.
This is beaded well, not exceptionally, and that tells me that yes, it's over 50%, but it's probably only around about 10 years old, which it is. We know that, but it's a pretty infallible test. So we've got this gorgeous colour from the wood. So the wood will, I would assume, I'm not getting it on the nose, it's masked on the nose, but I assume would be European oak, because it's very dark, tannic. But it's not coming from the Oloroso sherry. There may be a tiny bit of taste coming from the Oloroso sherry. Now then, flinty, maritime, mineralic. I
get a hint of like pencil shavings, that graphite sort of.
Yeah, graphite is good. That's very good.
I'm getting a bit of ashtray in there.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting ash. I tell you what. That's the smokiness coming through.
But it's not a Lafroig or Ardbeg style smoke that's all either TCP or bonfires. It's, as you say, ash, and it smells of fires that were fires yesterday, not today.
Yeah, that is intriguing.
But obviously, we're expecting some rich fruitiness from the cask influence. So,
not disappointing. So, amazing!
It is
sweet, mouth-filling, and then drying.
It was just a wave of smoke across your palate that just became, as you say, the sweet fruits that hit your palate, and then
massive smoke.
just rolls right down your tongue, like, I don't know, like the mist rolling in off the sea type of thing.
That's extraordinary. Cool. It's a big whiskey.
The nose does not belie that level of smoke at all.
The nose is pungent enough, but my goodness me, it doesn't prepare you for the taste.
Yeah, it's an experience and a half, isn't it?
What did I say, 55?
Yeah.
So it certainly can do with some water.
Right. Let's see what water does for it.
Wow, that is quite extraordinary. Is this a limited edition or a unique edition?
Yeah, single cask.
It's selected by James Wills, one of Anthony and Kathy's sons. A family venture like that. People forget how much it costs even to... Well, it's all very well raising the money to build a distillery. It becomes a little bit perilous when you've got to run it for at least 3 years because you've got really no income. It's a really good family enterprise.
And now it's been in the glass a little bit longer. I'm getting more fruit character, and with the addition of water.
So it could be damp fruitcake, but it's also that kind of heavy toffee note. Mm-hmm. In spite of the colour, it doesn't nose to me like a European oak cask. I think it's probably an American oak. Mm-hmm. Lovely, and the saltiness, this maritime saltiness, comes up.
Yeah,
the ash smoky is still there.
There's just a hint of like Band-Aids, like sticking plasters. Just now that I've added water to it, that's come out
very slightly medicinal.
Very, very subtle, but nothing like the more famous home of iodine.
Yeah. They do a range called Macha Bay, and that's the smoky ones.
Yeah,
the heavily smoked.
Very impressed with that.
Very impressed. Very impressed. No, that's great.